Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast for today, July 9th, 2024. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor in Chief, Ethan Pilch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, and our very special guest, Kian Ryan. Uh, Kian is here to talk to us about a really cool project that he's working on. And then Les has a new hat that he wants to show everybody. So before we get started, Kian, can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name's Kian. I'm a maker based in northwest of England, around the Bolton and Wigan area. I work with Leigh Hackspace. I'm a member at Leigh Hackspace, and we build things. People come to us. We have members that come in, and I also build things. I've been on previously talking about a project around Scions, getting Scion mini computers online. This project is a little bit bigger, so I brought the arcade cabinet with me today. And we're talking about our arcade cabinet build, our custom arcade cabinet build.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
So what can you tell us about your custom build?
So we had we actually had Devox UK, one of the large developer conferences in the UK, come to us and ask if we could work on them with building a Piecade style arcade cabinet, something small, desktop sized, something something that could fit on your desktop.
Yeah.
We sketched something out that was foldable, portable, something that you could take away at the end of the day. Piecades are lovely, but they sit on your desk. They're not the most compact thing to pack away at the end of the day. So we sketched something up, went forwards and backwards with them a few times, and long story short, what they actually wanted was full-scale cabinets that they could put up and take down at the end of the day. Let me go and find the right ones. So we started off with, over here you go. Started off doing some sketches for them. Small cabinets getting bigger and bigger and bigger until we ended up eventually at full-size cabinets. And we made these in-house. CNC'd them on our Shipoko Pro. And this is our full-size cab that we've ended up with. It's a collapsible cabinet. So, and in fact, half of it is with us today. So the whole point about this is that all of the guts live in the top section. In fact, in this top section, if I go to my desk, it's currently with me here today. So this is the top half of the cabinet. All of the guts live in the top half. There's a Raspberry Pi 4 in here. It's an elongated Piecade. Pi 4, Pi Hat, Player 2, two sets of arcade buttons, two sets of consoles, a rollerball because everybody loves playing a bit of Centipede. Components from all over the shop. We're not just using Samware buttons. We've now got some from a Spanish supplier as well. 23-inch display that runs off 12 volts. We take a singular 12 volts 4-amp input coming in from the back. We split that. We use a buck converter to power the Pi, 12 volts going up to the display. So we only need one singular power supply, and all of this lives in this top half of the case, which means that we're free to deal with the rest of the cabinet as a separate entity. So this lives as just a set of stackable sheets. And if I go to, and we can just treat them as a whole bunch of collapsible things. That's the worst. I hate this photo with me, but I look like a sitting Buddha at this point. But we built all 5 sets of cabinets. We collapse them down, throw them into the back of the van, take them down, set them up for the clients. End of an event, they can go and collapse them, and take them off and store them flat, and take them off to what they want to do next.
That's awesome. So with the collapsible nature, how strong are they? I mean, arcade machines are built for energetic fighting. They're going to take some abuse in general use. Will these take some stick?
These will take a fair amount of stick. It's 18mm MDF. It's held together with furniture bolts and nuts.
Yeah.
Which nuts are sat on my desk still. The pieces pieced together using butt joints on the sides. I love the way it opens on the wrong screen. You have to drag it across. So the whole piece slots together and then holds itself under tension using the bolts. Top half drops onto the second half, and because the whole piece holds together with the bolts, it ain't going anywhere. It is absolutely not going anywhere.
Wow.
And it weighs a fair amount as well. I mean, by the time you've put the top section in, we were wondering, when we did the original specification with the client, there was, we were talking about, do we need to strap this down? Are we going to have to? And then we built the first one, and we couldn't pick it up. Not on our own. And that's when we put the handles in the side.
That's awesome.
Version 2 ended up with handles.
Really? So, the weight, is there a decent bit of weight at the bottom as well? Obviously, you don't want it to tip over.
Yeah, we added in holes to the back, access holes. I mean, I'd say a third of the weight is in the back, is in the bottom half. Mm-hmm. Actually, more than a third of the weight's in the bottom half. The upper section, you can see, because the scallop profile reduces the weight in the upper half. It's a stable, solid platform. It really isn't going anywhere. There's a bridge that goes across the middle in the bottom half as well to add that extra bit of stability as well.
That is very cool. So we've got a question from the chat. Ziv Zoolander says, what kind of display and the specs of the display? Have you got those to hand?
I do. They're not that fancy. They are 23-inch. It's a Cooler Master display. Takes a standard HDMI input. It's supposed to run at 100 hertz. It does not run at 100 hertz. It runs at 60 hertz. That causes a whole pain of grief. Hooked it up to the Pi, got all the power splitting working, fired it up, played for 5 minutes, display blanked off. Oh no, I'm browning out of the display. Start all over. La 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 la. Brown out. Outcome meters, outcome everything. No, there's nothing wrong with the power requirements. This display just doesn't want to run at 100 hertz in Linux for whatever reason. We're guessing odd HDMI modes. Everything we're doing is, in fact, there's another aspect to this we'll talk about shortly. But the in-house testing that we were doing was all using. Let's go grab some, and someone's at the front door. The in-house testing that we were doing, if I switch back, was all being done using MAME, like you do. You're firing this up with MAME. You're playing Tetris. You're playing your own arcade. You're playing arcade games. So 60 hertz was absolutely fine. We forced the HDMI mode. We set the HDMI stuff. Absolutely perfect. No, once we'd worked out that the issue was just to set the HDMI mode manually and off we go. No issues. Linux is a wonderful thing until the point. Can you excuse me for 1 minute? I'm really sorry. I'm in the house of my own and someone's insistent at the door. I will be 2 seconds. I'm really sorry.
This is a first.
It happens, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the build, and I'm looking on Kian's website as well, Leigh Hackspace, leighack.org, and I'm just looking at how it's been cut out. It's a CNC router that's cut it out, and it's the stuff of dreams that I want in my garage. Because
I'm so sorry, folks.
It's okay. I'll order that pizza for later next time.
It's like, if I ignore them, they'll go away. No, they weren't going away.
That's all right.
New components from RS Electronics.
Nice. I'm just looking at the website. I can see the CNC router you've got, the Shapoko
XXL. Yep. So we brought that into Leigh Hackspace about a year and a bit ago now, I think. Time flies when you're working with machines. We originally were looking at something a little bit smaller, and then we went, let's go bigger, and that was the biggest one we could reasonably afford for the space.
Yeah.
It's an 800 by 800 bed. That means that we worked with the design constraints that gives us. So if we look at the the cabinet is 1.6 meters high. It's broken down into two 800 sections. The front section fits into the 800 profile as well. Everything fits within 800s. First build we did of this. Where's the cat for scale? There we go. This was our prototype build of the cabinet. That front lip of the arcade cab, the banner piece across the top, looked great. Had a lovely Atari silhouette to it. My wife is 5'2" to 5'3", give or take. She's the only person that can see underneath that profile. Great for kids, great for small people. Stood at 5'9", couldn't quite see the display in a straight line, so we had to adjust that profile. Couldn't adjust the height any higher, really, but just had to cut that banner back in by about 4 or 5 inches to the final design. There we go. Bring it right back so you could see the display at an angle, irrespective of your height. We're happy it works up to 6 foot plus. We have the tall people tell us it's absolutely fine.
That's very cool, mate. Also, I'm interested in the electronics. So you at the opening session, we had like a skirting over all electronics, but I want to know, what hat are you using for the arcade connections?
It's the standard Piecade X hat.
Okay.
We actually managed to get away with. So this is a project where we had a limited amount of time and a moderate amount of panic. This has to be done in a time frame and get it delivered. Let's try and do this without. So right down there. So yeah, it is a standard Pi 4. It's running a Piecade X. It's running a Player 2. So the ones that we shipped were single-player consoles. This one is a 2-player version that we built for the Hackspace because we wanted to give it that little bit of extra. All of the ones that we shipped out for clients were a single-player Piecade X hat. All of the components we sourced from Arcade World UK, who are unfortunately no longer with us. Make sure I've got that. There we go. But all of the components just directly use thingy connectors directly into the hat. So actually, trying to debug this is really straightforward. These sticks are standard Sanwa sticks, and these little nice little adaptation. This is a mod from a company in Spain who. You take a standard Sanwa, you take their little piece of kit, you basically take the Sanwa stick apart, you put this in, and it's just a little clutch, ball bearing clutch internally that allows you to mount one into the other. And that means that, end of the day, when you're done, you turn the cabinet off, and that allows you to close the screen down, and that's your folding cabinet. And that allows you then to stack and transport the cases.
That was going to be the next question about the joysticks poking up and smashing the screen. So yeah, you've answered that really well.
That's how we deal with it. There's a little safety catch in the cabinet on the right-hand side, which stops you from accidentally closing the screen case down whilst it's in use. So, and it's nothing more complicated. In the pursuit of simple, let's see if it's actually in the photo for the full-size cab. It is. You can just see it. Don't overcomplicate your answers. We just stuck a metal dowel in the right-hand side that pokes out. So when you've got the screen up, you push the dowel into position, and that stops the case from closing.
If it works,
stops any smash accidents. If it works, it's a simple answer to the problem.
That's nice. The Player 2 aspect on this cabinet, it's one of Pimoroni's other boards, isn't it? It's a USB board that plugs in
Yeah,
to the
it's
Pi.
called
Yeah,
Player X. So where the
that's it.
Picade hat acts as a keyboard input, the Player X hat acts as a joystick input. So getting those two to talk to each other can take a little bit of wiggling. So there was a little bit of customization on the RetroArch profile to set the Player X as the second player and allow the Player X to work as the first player. If you leave them as the standard configuration, you end up with both wanting to be the player one at all times because it sees a keyboard input and it sees a joystick input, and it assumes both of them will be a player one.
Well, hopefully in the future that's going to be solved for you, because Pineberry are working on a 2-player Picade cabinet.
Yep.
So shut up and take my money, you know.
Yeah, they were interesting to play with.
I do want one of those when they come out, and they are going to have. I'm guessing now because it's going to have to be part and parcel. A 2-player Picade X2, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
So that should solve the problem, because in the past I've used the cheap USB encoders that you can get from AliExpress. They're awful. They're messy.
This works. I mean, this solution does work. It's I was a little hesitant when I set it up at first because other people had been struggling to get this configuration working. Shout out, is it Gadgetoid at Pineberry had provided a update to the firmware on the Player X to allow it to work this way. So there was a little bit of firmware juggling to do. Once the firmware was up and working, no issues whatsoever. This was a smooth solution.
Good old Phil. Awesome.
Good old Phil.
Right, so you've got a Pi 4 in there now.
Yep.
Obviously, the new hotness is Pi 5. So, well, why are you not using Pi 5?
I mean, we had some fun with, and this is a tale of almost heartbreak. So, when we were building this, so yoink. Running this at Devox, the plan was to run it with Pygame games, some custom Pygame games that Dan Hardiker had developed.
Yeah.
So 5 games. They were based on the Code the Classics book from. Yep. So you grabbed the source code, done a bit of work around that, turned them into custom games based around the individual sponsors, talked to some of the original authors from some of the stuff that was based in the book, worked around that way, got these 5 games up and running. So we spent a good chunk of, and there's nothing like a deadline. Hardware was ready the weekend before the event.
Yeah.
That was the first opportunity Dan had to test it on Pi hardware as opposed to running it on standard PC hardware. And it hit a couple of performance bottlenecks. Fair enough. We'd initially set up. He had run it previously on a Bookworm install, and these were configured for prior to Bookworm because some of the Picade extension stuff wasn't working properly on Bookworm at the time. I don't know if it's working on RetroArch I think is not working on Bookworm. It's got to work on distro before Bookworm.
Bullseye, thank
you. So these had been configured for Bullseye. He'd done some testing on Bookworm. Inevitably, you get to a weekend before and suddenly you realize, oh no, these two are not going to hit each other. So yeah, we built these up on Pi 4 to work off the Picade platform, and basically as a reference implementation. Yeah. And then we hit the weekend before and realized we've got to do a little bit of optimization work to get these games running. We got them working weekend before. We did get them all working to a level that was good enough, and we got them shipped. But we realized that we've got some challenges around Pi 5, GPIO. Sticking a Pi 5 in here is not just a switch out of the board. There's more work to do than just switching out the board. Not all of the hats are working straight out the gate. Not all of the peripherals are working. there's a performance gain to go from one to the other, but it's not a straightforward swap. For me, I'm seeing a nice line in the sand that goes, there are jobs that I want to do where a Pi 4 is actually a good choice, and there are jobs that I want to do where a Pi 5 is a nice choice. And the moment, if it's GPIO related and if it's using a lot of GPIO work, it's a Pi 4 and down. If I want to do something that's more raw CPU power, and it's going to work over USB or whatever, then that's more of a Pi 5 job. So there's still a little bit of a firm line in the sand between those two. I suspect things are going to get better as we go forwards, but I don't feel comfortable just going, hey, everything's a Pi 5 by default at the moment.
No, that's fair. I mean, Pi 5 introduced its challenges. We had the GPIO issue that came with it straight away. That's still here to this day, and hats are slowly being moved over. After talking to Gadgetoid a few weeks ago, he's slowly losing his sanity. That was his words.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to do.
Yeah.
And we've got the problem with PEP 668 with externally managed Python installations. So if you want to do your installation of software, you've got to install it in a Python virtual environment, which has its own challenges. Ask me about OpenCV, and I'll tell you a tale of woe. So yeah, those are challenges. So you're right to stick with Pi 4. You get plenty of power. You can emulate. I mean, you can emulate comfortably up to probably PS2, some of the lower spec games, so to speak. That's pretty good. But Pi 5
is, considering what the Pi 5 offers, OpenCV should be a natural environment for that. Raw processing power and being able to do stuff on that level of device. You want to be able to harness that, but yes, there's still a lot there to work out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Les, how about this new hat that you've been looking at?
Yeah, well, talking of hats, actually, that's a fantastic segue. It's almost as if we planned it. We've got... we didn't, everyone, don't worry. We've got a new hat from Pineboards, formerly Pineberry P. So let's just get my pointing device and get the overhead camera on. So there is the old Pineboard. That's the hat drive top board. That goes on top of the Pi. And absolutely fine. No problems whatsoever. It's a great little board for getting 2230 and 2242 NVMe drives on your Pi. It just works. But what if you want something a bit smaller? Something that's not going to block the airflow of your Raspberry Pi 5's active cooler? Well, here you go. It's $10. It's €9, £9 for myself. It's pretty much that shrunk down to half the size. And it accepts 2230, 2242 drives, and it can also be used with AI boards like the Halo 8L and other Google Coral TPU boards. Literally just connects to two of the M2.5 mounting posts. There's your PCIe connection there to the board. Put your OS on there, and away you go. So I've literally built this about an hour ago, so I've got no benchmark testing, no data to say how fast it is, what performance is like. But if it's anything like its older family member, it's going to be just as fast. But I want to see what it's all about. But for €9, $10, that's cheap. That's almost just like forget about micro SD cards and just buy one of those. Obviously, you've got to buy a drive. That's a 256 gig Pine drive. That's one of Pineboards' certified drives to work on the Pi. Because originally, when all of these M.2 hats came out, there was a bit of compatibility issues. And trust me, I have lots of drives to prove that. In fact, here we go for the camera. There's all different M.2 drives I bought or had in stock already just to test. But yeah, I'm going to do a full test and review of this on Tom's Hardware. But so far, my only issue I had with it is it comes with 2 extra screws, which you don't need. And I didn't know that and put them in. And I put them in on the underside of the M2.5 mounting posts. And then when I put the screws in from the other side, it wouldn't all screw together. And this was a bit wobbly going over the active cooler. So I just used the shorter screws, and there we go. Oh, and then I put the PCIe cable in backwards, as we all do. Yeah.
It's like USB goes through 3 different orientations.
But that's it. Yeah, there's a superposition of USB.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you're muted.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's good that we're seeing more and more hats like this.
Yeah, there's absolute ton of hats. So I've reviewed 2 of the pine boards ones already, the top and the bottom. So the top one's what I showed before. The bottom literally goes underneath the pie. I've got another one to review from Geekworm, which will do even more drives. This will do 4 NVMe drives
Oh.
underneath the pie. There is a trade-off, just like the NVMe Duo from Pineberry, which this isn't it, but it'll do for a standing because it looks pretty much identical. There's a trade-off. 2 drives, half the drive performance. So you don't get the full bandwidth for all drives. You get however many drives you got, divide the bandwidth by that, and that's what you get. So I know Jeff Geerling's done some tests on this already, and it can drop down quite considerably. So there's a trade-off. Do you want lots of storage but slightly slower drives? Or do you just want to get one big drive and stick it on there and go for it? But yeah, I've got that one. I've got the one. Let me just lurch over my desk like a seasoned pro. Here we go. We've got the one in the Pineman 5 case that has its own NVMe drive in there.
That's quite nice.
It's a nice case. Keeps it really chilly because you've got 2 fans on the back there, and you've got a fan for the Pi itself, and it's one of the standard active cooler type fans that's always on. And I've got even more NVMe drive attachments for the Pi down here. I've got a stack of approximately 12 boxes, the entire catalogue of Pineboard's products to go through and review. Just a couple.
So plenty of articles to write.
I'm going to be kept busy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Great hats, great projects going on. Next week, we will be off for the exciting holiday of Prime Day. So, but we will be planned to be back on July 23rd with another exciting episode of the podcast. Thank you so much, Kian, for joining us. Thank you to all of you for watching and listening. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.